The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does not specify a minimum distance for installing a meter base next to a window. Electrical installations must adhere to the regulations outlined in the NEC to ensure safety and compliance. While the NEC doesn't mandate a specific distance from a window for a meter base, other factors come into play to ensure a safe and functional installation. These factors relate to accessibility, working clearances, environmental protection, and potential physical damage. Firstly, consider accessibility. The NEC requires sufficient working space around electrical equipment to allow for safe operation and maintenance. This space, defined in NEC section 110.26, mandates clear access for qualified personnel to inspect, maintain, and repair the meter base. The presence of a window should not obstruct this access. The working space dimensions vary based on voltage to ground and the conditions present on the opposite side of the working space. For instance, if the voltage to ground is between 0 and 150 volts, and there's an exposed live part on one side and grounded parts on the other side, or grounded parts on both sides, a minimum clear distance of 3 feet is typically required. If the voltage to ground is between 151 and 600 volts, the required clear distance increases to 3 feet 6 inches under similar conditions. If there's an exposed live part on one side and an insulated wall or insulated equipment on the other side, the minimum clear distance is 3 feet for voltages between 0 and 150 volts and 3 feet 6 inches for voltages between 151 and 600 volts. These clearances must be maintained regardless of the window's presence. Secondly, evaluate working clearances. These clearances extend beyond simple accessibility, ensuring enough room for electricians to perform tasks safely. NEC section 110.26 dictates specific clearance requirements based on the voltage of the installation. The depth of the working space in front of electrical equipment must be at least 3 feet for installations operating at 150 volts or less to ground. For systems operating between 151 and 600 volts, the depth increases to 3 feet 6 inches or 4 feet depending on the conditions present. The width of the working space should be at least 30 inches, or the width of the equipment, whichever is greater. The height of the working space must be at least 6 feet 6 inches or the height of the equipment, whichever is greater. A window should not encroach upon these required working clearances. Thirdly, environmental protection is crucial. Windows can be sources of condensation, direct sunlight, and temperature fluctuations. The meter base must be rated for the environmental conditions at the location. If the window causes excessive moisture or heat exposure, a different location or protective measures such as a shield or enclosure may be needed to prevent damage and ensure longevity. Meter bases are typically rated for specific environmental conditions, such as NEMA 3R for outdoor use, which provides protection against rain, sleet, and snow. Selecting a meter base with an appropriate NEMA rating is essential to ensure it can withstand the environmental conditions at the installation location. Fourthly, consider potential physical damage. The NEC addresses protection from physical damage in section 110.27. If the location near the window makes the meter base susceptible to damage, protective measures like barriers or a recessed mounting may be necessary. For example, if the window is at ground level and the meter base is exposed to potential impacts from vehicles or pedestrians, a bollard or other protective barrier should be installed. The type of protection needed depends on the specific hazards present at the location. Fifthly, local amendments and utility requirements can override the general guidance of the NEC. Local jurisdictions often have amendments to the NEC that may include specific requirements for meter base placement. Utility companies also have their own standards for meter installations, which may be stricter than the NEC. Always check with the local authorities and utility company before installing a meter base to ensure compliance with all applicable regulations. This is particularly important because utility companies are responsible for connecting the meter to the grid and may refuse to do so if the installation does not meet their standards. Sixthly, regarding the height of the meter base, NEC section 230.202G addresses clearances above grade. Although it doesn't specify distance from windows, it's related because the overall accessibility and safety of the meter are crucial. The meter base must be installed at a height that allows for safe and easy reading and maintenance. The typical height for a meter base is between 4 feet and 6 feet above grade, but this can vary depending on local requirements and the specific installation. The height of the meter base should also be considered in relation to the window. If the window is low to the ground, the meter base may need to be installed higher to prevent it from being obstructed or damaged. Seventhly, conductor protection is important. The service conductors running to the meter base must be adequately protected from physical damage and environmental factors. NEC Section 230.6 specifies the requirements for protecting service conductors. If the conductors are exposed near the window, they may need to be protected by conduit or other means. The type of protection required depends on the specific conditions at the installation location. For example, if the conductors are exposed to direct sunlight, they may need to be protected by a sunlight-resistant conduit. Eighthly, consider proper labeling. The NEC requires that electrical equipment be properly labeled to identify its purpose and voltage. The meter base should be clearly labeled with its voltage and amperage rating. This helps to ensure that qualified personnel can safely work on the equipment. The labeling should be durable and able to withstand the environmental conditions at the location. Ninthly, grounding and bonding are vital for safety. The meter base must be properly grounded and bonded to ensure that any fault current can safely flow back to the source. NEC sections 250.92 and 250.94 specify the requirements for grounding and bonding service equipment. The grounding electrode conductor must be sized according to NEC table 250.66 and connected to a suitable grounding electrode. The bonding jumper must be sized according to NEC table 250.102 and connected to all metal enclosures and equipment. Tenthly, inspect the installation carefully. After the meter base is installed, it should be inspected by a qualified electrician to ensure that it complies with all applicable codes and regulations. The inspection should include a visual examination of the installation as well as testing of the grounding and bonding system. Any deficiencies should be corrected before the meter is energized. Remember to consult the latest edition of the NEC and local amendments for the most accurate and up-to-date requirements. When in doubt, always seek guidance from a qualified electrical inspector or engineer. While the NEC doesn't impose a specific distance requirement from windows for meter bases, compliance with general safety and accessibility standards is paramount. Adherence to these broader guidelines ensures a safe and functional electrical installation.